Welcome everyone tuning in from near and far. Today we are stepping into a conversation that promises not just to enlighten but to inspire. We are hanging out with Chitra Iyer and Anuj Singhal, the powerhouse duo behind Space2Grow, a consulting firm that works its magic on social impact, a consulting firm that works in niche areas creating lasting impact through partnerships. Now, as we sit down with Chitra and Anuj, we're not going to be talking only about Space2Grow. We'll also talk about their backstory. What were they doing before they started Space2Grow, and how have they brought Space2Grow to where it is today? And let's not forget, they're here to unwrap their brand's fresh new look. Yes, they are doing a relaunch of their brand, and they'll be sharing their vision and their vibrant energy that'll take Space2Grow forward. This conversation will give you a lot of food for thought, and we hope it will end up giving you the nudge that you need to start your own journey. Chitra and Anuj, it's fantastic to have you here. Before we start exploring this amazing journey that Space2Grow has had, let's rewind a bit. Can you share with us what was life like before Space2Grow happened? What were you guys up to? What were you doing? Just tell us about what was life like before Space2Grow started. Why don't you start, Chitra, and then Anuj, you can chime in.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. I'm a professional social worker and have been working in the development sector for over 22 years now. One great thing and a blessing is that I haven't been disillusioned yet. It's been over 22 years, but have stuck in the sector because I think even a small change is a big change in the social impact space. I work with large international organizations, non-profits, government bodies, and have had a hand at two more entrepreneurial ventures. And the whole idea, that I've had is working in the sector on the issues of education, livelihoods, anti-human trafficking, child protection, and also working with marginalized communities on skills and, employment generation programs. So that's what I've been doing before Space2Grow.
Well, that's lovely. The fact that cynicism hasn't corroded your idealism is inspirational. Anuj, how about you?
I have a finance background. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. So I have over 20 years of experience in banking industry and finance and compliances. My journey in development sector started with the large international non-profit, which was working in the space of anti-human trafficking. And that's how I got a flavor of, the issues and the challenges which the sector has. And I was leading the finances, investment, and strategic planning for its global operations over there. So it was then and there, I along with Chitra started Space2Grow.
Before we started having this conversation, you told me you started your career with Bank of America. And from Bank of America, you moved to this large international organization that was working in the anti-trafficking, child trafficking space. Can you tell us what the name of that company and what was your work like there?
So after Bank of America, I moved to another bank, Royal Bank of Scotland. There was a consolidated banking experience. Then the organization which you're referring to, the anti-human trafficking, name of that was Justice and Care. So they had operations in America, UK, Bangladesh, and India. So primarily they were raising funds, in USA and UK. However, from an operations perspective, they had a major operations in India, which I was handling.
Right. Quite a switch from Bank of America to Justice for. But clearly there is a lot of idealism there too. Right. So now tell us about what was the thought process that went behind setting up Space2Grow, and also tell me what was that final nudge that got you over the proverbial cliff and made you start work on Space2Grow.
Okay, I'm going to start this. So basically, I've been working in the sector, like I said, over 20 years. And I think one thing that kept me going, like I said, was the little bit changes that were happening, or at least large changes. But what was a huge gap has been that, really making an impact through just a single organization or for a single organization has always been a challenge. And, if you work in a community, say if I'm working in a particular state, there'll be lots of organizations working together. But really getting that synergy and creating collective impact was also a challenge. I think what really became important was how do you really bring it all together? How do you create that collective impact? And I think that question kept bothering me through the years of work that I've been doing. And I was like, how do I do this? What can I do? How can I answer this question to even my own self? It's been like so many years that I've been working in the sector. And I think it was that time I felt that probably, setting up a consulting firm as a catalyst for change might be a great idea to start off with. Because that could be like a single platform where we could bring in a lot of nonprofits, bring in corporates, bring in the policy influencers, and create change on some really niche, themes that we would want to work on. So I think that was one. But secondly, I think it's also important that, you can always think that, okay, a great consulting firm, let me start with this. But what do I really do in that consulting firm? That was another question. Again, I had to really go back and look at what are the learnings that has had through the years. I could have thought that, we could do something on education, health, climate change. But the question was, what is it that people are not really focusing on? And can we really focus on that? And what was the most passionate area that we really could create something new? And I think that's where we came to the focus on the themes. Child protection, digital safety of children in the online space, anti-human trafficking, skilling for marginalized communities. I think that became the core of setting up the consulting firm. And then the third thing was very, very important to get the right person to really work with. And
Absolutely.
I think, we both have a completely different set of skills. So, which was also a great thing because we knew that, if he's going to come with the skills of like all the finance, investment, compliance, and I have the program solution and, working on development, I think complementarity would really be a huge service to the consulting firm. And also one major thing was I knew that, okay, different skill sets, we won't really fight with each other too much. But I don't know if we did not fight, but I think you'll know that through the conversation.
Right. So let me summarize if I've got this right. There are multiple issues which need focus,
Yeah.
and you've identified issues or challenges where you think there is focus missing.
Absolutely.
So there are issues where the top of the mind issue that comes to my mind is, for the longest of time, AIDS was a very big issue. A lot of money would come in for prevention of AIDS and research towards AIDS, child vaccination, polio vaccination. So these are broader issues that a lot of us are familiar with. But then there were specific niches that you saw nobody was working on. And because in India, there is nothing if not scale, even those problems were at a scale. So the idea was to sort of try and see if you could make an impact in areas that no one else was focusing on, or maybe the focus was not as intense as it should have been. Lovely. Anuj, so what was it that got you excited about Space2Grow?
See, for me, the nudge was now or never moment. As I talked about, I moved from banking to a development sector. So while in a bank, we are all aware of, I mean, not just for me, like anybody who's working on the corporate side are aware of the issues, what these issues are. But when I joined, anti-human trafficking organization, I realized the depth and the severity of the issues. Okay, I went on one of the, even I was part of the finance team as part of the processes. I went on one of the rescue and I saw the misery and the severity through which these children, who were trafficked were going through, which was sort of one of the moment when I felt like something needs to be done about them. Like, not just sitting in office in finance, something needs to be done more about it. And I think that was one of the moment which triggered some sense of, responsibility, which I thought like, I need to do something about it. I need to do something about it because as a father, like, I felt like it's not just my children who need to be safe. It's everybody, every child has the right to be safe in universe. And that particular trigger led to me also, start thinking about like, what can be done, what also be done. And I think it was once in a lifetime opportunity, to do something meaningful, apart from the regular and the mundane, professional, which I was in, to start an organization or to start something around, these issues. And that was the time, like, Chitra and I had a detailed discussion about, like, what can be done, in this area and how this can be done. And that's how we set up Space2Grow.
Fantastic. It's a cliche to say that we belong to a very privileged lot, especially when you compare the scale and the challenges in India. So it's always heartening to see when somebody realizes not only are they privileged, but are willing to use that privilege to make a larger impact. Always inspirational. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Let's dive in. So take me back to day one. The trigger has been pulled. What's day one like? Chitra?
Actually, the organization has been registered for over 5 years. And, in the initial 1 year, we've been doing some really small projects. But I think we became active. And I think the day one was the day we realized that this is full on. We're going to go on with this. And I think that day one was honestly a very, very, different day as expected. So you'll expect that it's a startup, you're going to be in office space, you'll figure it out, and you have two partners, you're going to start working. But the day one when we started up was when, the Honorable Prime Minister announced that it's going to be COVID and it's going to be Bharat Band. So that was our day one. We were sitting in the house and I was having a conversation with Anuj online. And we were talking about, what can be done, how we're going to shape things. And we realized that, what are we going to do really now? So day one was wanting to do something, passionate about doing something, not having any idea where we're going to go, who is going to be our funder, where is the client going to be, do we even have the money to do this, will we get our salaries or not? So we had no idea about it. So day one was very bleak, but it had a lot of passion, want, and the thrill to really take the plunge.
Passion, want, and thrill while the world was going in a lockdown.
Absolutely.
What was your day one like?
So it was pretty similar. It was just like, but it was online. But the feelings and what was going through in our mind was same. How we're going to do it, what needs to be done in terms of what are the small steps, what are the processes, what are the nitty-gritties of things, what are the thematics that we want to pick on, and how we are going to approach various targeted clients or beneficiaries and all those things. We put down whole list of things that is needed in terms of to start the process, which was from brainstorming and then listing down how and what that was required to initiate the process.
So were there any surprises on day one? Like Chitra mentioned, the company was already in existence for about a year and both of you had spent a lot of time thinking through this. But was there something that really came up on day one? Oh, we didn't think of this. Now, how are we going to deal with this? Or was everything sort of pretty much planned out? And anything that you recall from day one that, अरे ये तो सोचा ही नहीं था?
हाँ, मतलब COVID और बंद तो बिल्कुल नहीं सोचा. That was the last thing we had really thought about. So, the entire, honestly, but we could not envisage as to how is it going to happen or what is going to happen. Because I think somewhere it is also good not to know what's going to happen. So I think, of course, the surprise was this. But we also knew one thing because, like Anuj said, we worked in the anti-human trafficking space. And one thing we really knew was when a disaster hits, the biggest challenge that happens is safety of children, safety of women, safety of communities. And we knew that anti-human trafficking is going to be an issue during the times of COVID. That was we were very clear because having worked in the sector, knowing disaster, accentuates, social issues, we knew that there was something that we had to do. Whether we are able to get a client to pay us or not right now, we knew that we had a beginning now. So that definitely was there.
So this is interesting because there was a lockdown which was unpredictable and unforeseen. You suddenly realized that a lot of other issues will get focus on, whereas some of the more critical issues like anti-child trafficking would get overlooked because the world was grappling with a very different sort of a challenge. So that's the end of day one. Now take us through the journey from day one to the next 1 year. How did you guys go about building Space2Grow in the first year, 2 years? What was that journey like?
Yeah, so honestly speaking, as we said, that was day one, but day one was full of surprises and there were challenges as well. While we have planned out what all needs to be done, but then the COVID and uncertainties put on us on a spot, and we have to rethink what needs to be done in terms of reaching out to clients or to figure out what and how needs to be done, because there was complete dynamics change that has happened because of the lockdown, and that was a time we thought we re-strategize or thought what are the new challenges that are going to come post COVID. One of the challenge that we saw and was the rising access to the internet, because everybody was put on internet. The education system was all moving towards internet. Online classes had started booming up in those in that period, and I we thought that while it's an like a new avenue for children to learn, but at the same time we realized that there is a huge risk, which was seen from our previous experience, while working on the issue, that it will also lead to rise in the risk and harms for children. So that's a time when we started thinking on the issue and what are the things that we can do and with whom we can work with such issues. And in the process, we reached out to one of the largest tech company in India, Vedantu, and we started figuring out what can be done, what needs to be done in terms of safety of children on online space.
So first year was the focus was on digital safety because suddenly everybody was online. Children at a very young age were online. And digital safety, we know the kind of content that is available on the internet and how harmful it can be for children. So a lot of work went in. That's where in the first year. Chitra, what was first year like for you in the organization?
It's quite a lot of action, honestly. And I think the most important thing, like Anuj said, digital safety became a huge issue. While working in the anti-human trafficking space, one thing, we have always spoken of and I have always felt very strongly about is if human trafficking was something that was happening in some rural area or some urban area, and we have this conception, trafficking hoga, to rural India mein hoga, या फिर कहीं पे poverty है, वहां पे होगा. But the whole point was online and the pandemic actually cut across all of this. Yeah. And we knew that risk was at your doorstep. And it was no more a rural India or a urban India or a urban slum. It was at your doorstep. Whoever you are, whatever you are, as long as you're a child, there was a fear of being at risk online. So I think for us, what became important was how do we create mass awareness? We can't go out into the communities to do training. So we started working with several state governments at that time. Of course, all of this was pro bono, but we worked with state governments. And using their machinery, we started training community level responders on anti-human trafficking and digital safety. We did that in Jharkhand. We did that massively in Karnataka. We also did quite a lot of trainings in Delhi, where online we started doing several training programs. And through those training programs, we started getting a lot of cases where children were being at risk in the online space. And what we would do is we would try and connect them to the right kind of child rights organization, give them the right kind of help that is possible. So that's the kind of, work we started really doing in the first year. So that's basically what the first year was, to reach out to people, talk about digital safety, talk about anti-human trafficking. Also, we started bringing up some of the issues that we wanted to work on, like skilling and also child protection, by doing seminars, webinars, because webinars was like the key thing during that time. So we used that opportunity to really talk about who we are and talk about the work we wanted to do. So we did a lot of socialization of Space2Grow in the first year.
Well, it's clearly evident that Space2Grow was conceived out of deep understanding of the challenges that we face on these issues in India and your commitment towards it and your commitment in solving those issues. If you could tell us at a macro level, what is the scale of this challenge that we are talking of, and who else is fighting this good fight apart from Space2Grow?
So talking about the digital safety, the shockingly 1 out of 3 children are having access to internet. And when I'm talking about children, they cut across all age groups from 5 years to 18 years. Even less than 13-year child has access to a social media account, which is not permitted, but they do have access to those social media accounts and other platforms. One of the research that we did along with Omid and Network India, what came out was there are no biases when it comes to access to internet, gender or locality. And that basically, if one feels like, boys are having more access to internet or girls are more vulnerable on internet, I mean, that came out, there are no really division because of or biases because of the gender or locality. Even urban, even if it comes to rural areas, they were equally vulnerable well, they had equal risk and harms, or exposure when it comes to digital as compared to children in an urban area. Apart from that, what came out more alarming in that study, what came out that 40% students or children who are having access to internet, they interact with strangers, and 60% of those children, they end up meeting those strangers in an offline space. So that's really really alarming, and they could have very severe consequences. And what compounds is this is while this is the risk or exposure which children are facing, but the real challenge is lack of awareness, not many people are aware of this risk, and what needs to be done to prevent from those risks, and also a preparedness to tackle those risks. When it comes to preparedness, when I mean to say preparedness of law enforcement and civil societies to tackle these cases. So that compounds the entire issue that we have in our hand with inability or lack of ability, I'll say, to tackle those issues.
I'm just thinking aloud, it's not just the external stakeholders. As a parent, I was not aware of these staggering statistics. I wonder if even the parents are aware of the challenges of the scope of this threat. Actually, it's really a threat, right? Chitra, who are the other people fighting this good fight?
When I talk about the other teams and what's the scale of challenge, just to answer this, I think one very important thing that Anuj mentioned, the gender neutrality and the location neutrality. There's always this discussion that happens that there is a digital divide in the country. People don't have access, children don't have access to mobile phones. When COVID happened, learning could not happen because children did not have access to mobile phones and, gadgets that could enable learning. But what is very interesting to note is even a single phone in a household, which is mostly a smartphone today, is just enough to get that access to become vulnerable. Whether you're able to learn or not, that's another thing. But you actually can become vulnerable. And like you said, parents and educators are like your first responders. My safety belongs only because of them. And when they are not aware and when they are not able to give you the right, ways to actually address this, it becomes, compounding. Having said that, there's quite a lot of work that's happening in the country. And I think we need to take cognizance of that, whether it is the government. We have right now got the Digital Data Protection, Personal Data Protection Act that is coming, where we are talking about privacy, and there's a very deep focus on how children and their privacy of data has to be taken care of. Apart from that, we also have a lot of non-profits and civil society doing awareness programs on, digital safety, how children have to be kept safe online. We also have bodies, regulatory bodies like the NCPCR and others who are monitoring these situations. I think what's important is for us as parents and for the communities, whether it is urban, rural, for parents and children to know that this exists. So the availability is there, but the knowledge of the existence of services not there, and the services today are not at a scale at which the platform access is there. And I think those are challenges that one is really grappling with within the digital space.
Yeah. And just to add, Manish, out here is the AI and the new emerging trends. This is another thing which is emerging, and all these new technologies are just compounding the issues. While there is a positive side of this technology, but at the same time, it is compounding the issues that we have or the issues that we are tackling today through the reach out of the children and also the impact on the children.
So, digital safety of children is the one theme that you are working on. What are some of the other themes that you're working on?
The issue of anti-trafficking, child protection, skilling, and let me just give you a little bit of a landscape of the gaps that are there. So again, I think one very important thing with Space2Grow is the in-depth expertise that we come with, and I think I'll always go back to some of the stories that have inspired and have led to what we're doing. So while working on the issues of human trafficking, and actually one survivor, I remember this was in Murshidabad in West Bengal, she had said that, after her rescue and when she was reintegrated with the family, she had said, दीदी अगर कोई भी काम काज अगर मुझे गांव में मिल जाता और मुझे अगर 2,000 रुपए भी मिल जाते तो शायद मैं ट्रैफिक नहीं होती, शायद मैं सेक्सुअली एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं होती. Which actually tells us that there is a huge community of vulnerable people who can be or may be trafficked, or there are trafficking survivors, or there are other marginalized communities who do not get the center stage of the skilling ecosystem. We have a huge skilling ecosystem. We have a large ministry that's actually working on this issue. And there is stupendous work that's happening in the skilling and livelihood space. But the challenges within that space are that many of these programs are meant for somebody who's like a eighth class, minimum eighth class, or if, who can actually get into some skill training. But what we realize is that anybody who's a survivor of trafficking, who has lost their childhood, who has lost their entire life in terms of not accessing education, how are they supposed to even come to an eighth class level? So it becomes very difficult to integrate marginalized communities into the skilling ecosystem. So I think whole idea of one of the work that we do is what do we do to design solutions that are smart enough, effective enough for integrating survivors of trafficking and marginalized community into the skilling ecosystem. So our whole idea is how do we advocate that through pilots and projects and innovations to actually take it to the another level. So skilling and the gaps of affirmative action is another area of focus.
So you've told us about the issues that you're working on. Anuj, what is it about Space2Grow? What's the secret sauce that sets you apart?
Okay, so the secret sauce of our success, or the work that we do, can be put in a very simple term, which is the framework that we use, concept to impact. It's like a full framework that we use to summarize our services into a framework. So we start with solid evidence-based research, to get to the lay of land, and basis that we craft our strategies for the client, so that it can help in providing a solution that can be scaled up. And we don't end up over here. We roll up our sleeves and also help our clients to implement the program based on that solution, and also assess the impact of the program. So when I talked about the concept to impact, it is basically conceptualization, strategization, program management, and impact assessment. So it's an end-to-end solution that we provide, and that makes us unique.
So Anuj, now tell me, how do you measure the impact of your work? What are the measurables? What are the deliverables that as an internal stakeholder you keep a track of? And how can an external stakeholder then sort of assess the kind of work that you guys are doing? So what are some of the benchmarks? What are the barometers of the work that you're doing? How do you measure them?
So this is where it starts getting interesting. Like, what we believe is an evidence and a tangible outcome of what a work that we do. As part of it, whenever we pick up a project, okay, we define the measurable or tangible outcomes in forms of KPIs that has to be delivered as part of the project. And to give you an example, in an intervention related to digital safety, what we measure is the reduction in the instances of abuses and increase of the compliance score of the organization. So these are the some of the very tangible and an outcome based approach that we follow to measure the impact of any program. We've also done marquee initiatives, in the digital space. So we created a child safety framework for the largest tech company in India, and that was the first of its kind. Some sort of a child safety framework that was created in an online space. And besides that, we also created a benchmarking assessment. How an organization can benchmark them, for their child safety, and that was again a first of its kind that we did. For us, the impact of that was acceptance of that model, of that framework, by stakeholders and by the regulator. Because once they give their blessing, I mean, if the government gives us a blessing that this is a very good model and this can be used to implement across schools and organizations, that gives a validation of the work that we are doing. And also, what we see as an impact is the positive feedback that we get from our stakeholders, because that's something which is not measurable, but a qualitative impact, what we call it, like feedback that we receive from the stakeholder, and as continuous support from those stakeholders in the work that we are doing.
Continue to work with you, and the fact that you get multiple projects and subsequent projects for them, I think is good evidence that they clearly see an impact. Chitra, tell me your favorite case study. One project that you've done over the last 4 5 years that's given you tremendous satisfaction, and that has sort of reinforced your belief in what Space2Grow is doing.
Okay, that was a very biased question. I'm sure my other clients are going to be like, why did you pick this up? But then, of course, there are many. Before that, I just want to say that, the impact of what we've created also shows in the fact that the large ethics that we're talking about, or the counselors and therapists that we have worked with, they're as our board of advisors to it today. So we've been able to not just work with people, but also be able to really get them as advisors on our board.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're also in our experts ecosystem, and they engage with us and we engage with them beyond what we have actually worked on. So I think what Space2Grow always wanted to do was to collaborate and be the catalyst of change, get people together. And I think that's what we're doing. And I'm happy that, we're able to just do that. Having said that, I think there are quite a lot of them. One particular thing I wanted to talk about is within the development sector, one area which is a very, very important focus is awareness, creating mass awareness, creating programs that can actually lead to awareness. And I think one of the recent projects that we've been doing has been to do an impact assessment of a program which is conducting digital safety programs in schools, and we were hired to do, an impact assessment of a program like that. So I think it's very important for us when we start off is that, many times all these programs end up being just a one-stop intervention and they never have a consequential, impact. And to do that, we said, let's look at how do these interventions cause behavior change? Because at the end of the day, if we're doing awareness programs on digital safety, what we need to see is what's the way in which a child changes their behavior, and the way they interact with the internet has to change. So we try to create this framework, which is pretty well known, but then we wanted to customize to what we're doing. So we said, let's look at 4 things. Is there a willingness to change? Second, do they see the benefits of change? Third is, what are the barriers because of which the change can't happen? And finally, what is the likelihood of relapse? So when we started looking at that, what really came up was that the willingness to change is very high. Children want to be safe. It's not like they want to be unsafe on a platform. They go on a platform and it's like, harm ho jaye. That's not happening. They really want to be safe. They do see the benefits of change. They do see the fact that, अगर हमने कुछ अच्छा सीखा है, तो सबसे पहले ये होता है कि they go back and talk to their parents, because they see that half the problem is with the parents getting scammed through phishing. So they have gone and spoken to their parents about it. So they do see the benefit of change. But there are intense and maximum barriers of change that exist, because one is all schools do such training programs. If you're not in a school, can a training program like that happen for me? Even if the training program is happening, do I have the infrastructure to access such training programs in schools? What is the level of my understanding of internet from a very remote rural area to an urban area? So there is barriers to change are many. And I think the likelihood of relapse is really, really high, because the way, like for example, in the internet platform, the algorithms work, right? They keep coming to you to change your mind, right? But we don't go with training programs again and again to change the algorithm in your mind, right? So I think that's the highest likelihood of relapse. So I think this was an interesting exercise we did, because this enables us to start re-strategizing and working with clients in a better way in terms of how do we, design solutions. So I think that's one of them actually.
Shifting something to a tad lighter, I see Space2Grow is relaunching its brand. It's got a new look. It's got a fresh new look. Why don't you tell us about this? What's the idea behind this new look, the brand makeover?
Okay, absolutely. It's like actually stepping out in a new outfit. And it's basically to tell who we really are. What's really happened is, we've had a lot of learnings in the last years, and we've evolved as an organization, we've evolved as teams, we've also evolved as individuals in the sector. But to say that we've been incredibly proud of our own logo, the previous logo that we've had, and it has actually helped the brand quite a lot. But now it was time to bring together the learnings and communicate who we are, and that's why we wanted to have this fresh look. Having said that, it's a refresh, not a reset.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
continue to do what we're
Exactly.
doing. We're just refreshing ourselves with a new brand. Um, some things, I think there's a lot of passion with which we come to work every day, and there's also a lot of intent with which we come, and work. And what we wanted was the brand to really communicate that boldness, that fearlessness with an empathy and caring attitude. Also, the colors that you just mentioned, I think what we're trying to do is show our own true colors of being empathetic, being dynamic, being the people who really want to bring change. And I think what really encapsulates all of that is the tagline we have now, which is consulting for good, Space to Grow Consulting for Good. So that's like summing up why and who and what the change is all about.
Anuj, your thoughts?
Adding to what Chitra mentioned, the new branding is a way of, big and a heartfelt shout out to everyone who's part of this journey. It's also a way of saying that we value you, we are here for you, and together we'll continue our journey to make this difference.
It's also about, a final statement towards the brand is that, it's a call out for action. Action for us in terms of creating a safer, skilled, and, freer community for people who really matter, which is youth and children. And I think everything, whether it is the color, whether it is the logo, whether it is our website, whether it is us, whether it is our teams, we depict that, creating safer, skilled, and safer communities.
Wonderful. I'll pick up on two words on what you've just said: we and us. So tell me about your team. How big is the team at Space to Grow? What is it about Space to Grow that it attracts talent, and what kind of talent Space to Grow really attracts?
So I think when you ask about the talent, now that you know us, a chartered accountant, a professional social worker, so it doesn't matter to us what is the background you come with. It's more about, for us, it's the intent with which you come with. So I think we have a diverse set of team members from various skills and from different places. So that's basically who we are. We have a multiple set of team members who have different, skill sets who come together, because the kind of work we do, we need diverse set of expertise and diverse set of people who can deliver the kind of concept to impact framework that Anuj just mentioned. Another very important thing is that, Anuj and I have believed, even when we were just two of us working, we would always celebrate even the smallest thing, and we felt that, even if a day goes well, we want to celebrate it, because if you don't enjoy the small wins in the kind of work we do, we will not be able to really create that smile which we want to create in the children and youth that we want. So we make sure that team members have fun. There are people who come with an attitude. Nothing else matters. You can teach skills. You can, teach people how to learn. People can acquire skills, and with what internet has done and all the Coursera's of the world, you can always learn skills. But what you never get is an attitude. What we want in the team, or what we really look out for in the teams, is the attitude. Attitude to visualize the vision of the organization, an attitude to challenge themselves to deliver, an attitude which is actually going to keep ensuring that they grow as the organization grows. So that's basically a little bit of the team. And I think without that team, without the journey that we've had with several team members, also one important thing is that the people who come to Space to Grow and the teams that we have worked with are very passionate about the kind of real world impact they're going to create. And this real world impact, you also are able to create in a consulting space. And when I say that, it's also not just about coming and seeing impact, but actually rolling up your sleeves, going back to the communities, working with them with an absolute grounds up approach. And I think that's pretty attractive for the youth and the professionals who come today.
So who are the stakeholders, and how can they reach out to Space to Grow for meaningful partnerships?
So, Manish, on that, I just want to say that, like, any stakeholder who is working with youth and children and are interested in creating safer environment for children and youth, and organizations who are doing meaningful work in skilling, and they want to create an impact in inclusivity. So those are the organizations are our stakeholders. Just to be specific, social media companies, ed tech companies, gaming companies, international donors, non-profits, policy influencers. These are our stakeholders. And to name a few, Omedyar, British Asia Trust, Vedantu, WhatsApp. These have been, our clients in the past few years, apart from many other clients. So anyone who is working in these areas, and they want us to reach out for evidence-based research, strategization, program management, and doing the impact assessment, they can reach out to us, through our social media accounts, LinkedIn, through our website, or you can write to me at Anuj @ space2grow.in.
Lovely. What next for Space to Grow? Chitra?
Um, so, like I said, we very clear with the vision that we have, which is creating safer communities, safer spaces for children and youth. And I think that's the core of the legacy that we want to carry out as an organization and continue to add on and innovate work within the space of leading to safer communities for children. Having said that, I think we work on diverse set of things. And sometimes I feel that the puzzles that we work, which is digital safety, child protection, anti-human trafficking, skilling, if we all put that jigsaw puzzle together, we will definitely have a safer space which is skilled and empowered for children and youth. What we really want to do now is really focus on some of the key areas, which is mass awareness campaigns. One of the research that we just spoke about on Omedia Network India and the kind of disjointed understanding that various stakeholders have, we feel that a mass awareness campaign is really important. So we're trying to really design something towards that. Second is we have a lot of learning in the last 5 years on how to create safer communities, safer spaces. We're looking at productizing our work, creating plug and play models which can be integrated to platforms, to schools, to any other stakeholder who would want to really work with children and safety. And the third thing that we really want is co-creating programs. Because many a times what happens is within the space, if the idea was to start an organization where synergy happens, we want to co-create partnerships, co-create solutions through those partnerships and diversify that. And one thing which is really important, again, which we want to focus is really increase the work in the research area. Because whether it is any of the thematics that we're working in, the emerging risks and the trends in the emerging risks are far higher. So I was talking to somebody, a bureaucrat recently, and she was saying, Chitra, the commitment of the perpetrators to actually create a crime is far more than our commitment to really create something meaningful. And I think that meaningful can only happen when I can think that, okay, 10 years down the line, this is the kind of crime that is going to happen to children, and what is the solution I can create today? So I think research is going to play a very, very significant role in the overall work we're doing.
Yeah, just to add to what Chitra has already mentioned, is we're also looking at creating unique solutions, because that's one proposition which we always have to think unique and create unique solutions, which nobody is looking at. And apart from that is also scaling up our work, from where we are today. How can we scale up work to the next level is something which will remain our focus for the next few months. And also seeing that how we can augment state capacities in dealing these issues, because it's not a one man show, like only one organization or few people can do it ultimately, like we have to capacitate states to handle these issues, and to ensure that these issues don't happen. We have to capacitate state, and that's something which will be also been targeting as our next goal.
This is wonderful. Clearly, Space to Grow is not just a consulting firm. It's a movement, and it's a movement that's needed. Because in India, if there is one thing that's missing, that's state capacity. And if Space to Grow can augment state capacity and help us deal with these challenges, whose magnitude continues to grow every day. How can that not be great? If you want to know more about Space2Grow, visit their website, check them out on their social media feed. Both Anuj and Chitra are on LinkedIn. In this age of social media, if you really want to associate yourself with Space2Grow, there's no way you cannot find them. Thank you for watching this. Thank you once again, Anuj and Chitra.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Manish.
much,
Thank
Manish.
you.